Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. It is Mr. Cowboys Fan. Of course, before we proceed into the video, leave a like and subscribe. It is I. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. It is Mr. Cowboys Fan. Of course, before we proceed into the video, leave a like and subscribe. It is I, Mr. Cowboys Fan, where we talk about cowboy things. So, do the Dallas Cowboys have enough going into the 2024 NFL season? That is the question. Well, it's a question I feel like that we ask every year, at least since 2021. We've been asking this question every single year going into training camp, preseason, being like, do we got enough, stuff like that. Well, here's my thing. I think that we're almost there. I still think that we have a little bit of a hole at defensive tackle, I still think that we have a hole at defensive tackle. However, Mike Zimmer has been, of course, he has been, bringing in, they've been bringing in, defensive linemen for workouts and stuff like that. And it has you thinking maybe that Mike Zimmer really is trying to send a message that he really wants to, unload, as far as, ammo, as far as defensive linemen that he can have to his disposal. Maybe he understands that there's a little bit of a hole at this defensive line situation as well. Not so much defensive end, but mainly defensive tackle. Yes, we drafted Justin Rogers, of course, with our 6th round pick, D tackle out of Auburn, but we did lose Neville Gallimore in free agency. And of course, probably the biggest hit was losing Jonathan Hankins to the Seattle Seahawks, if I'm not mistaken. And, there were guys out there. There were. But, we decided not to, get, we decided not to get a guy like, a Christian Wilkins. But, the thing is that, I feel like we're almost there. It's just that I feel like we have a couple small holes. Interior defensive linemen, of course. And then I still don't know for sure if we're set at running back. Whatever we have, I guess is what we would have to use if that is what it all if that was what it all boiled down to. But I'm just saying, I think we could definitely do better as far as this running back situation. It doesn't have to be Ezekiel Elliott, Rico Dowdle, Royce Freeman, and Deuce Vaughn. Which, granted, I don't know if we're going to carry 4 running backs on the roster anyway. Somebody's going to get cut. But, yeah. So, I'm just saying, I don't think that, we could definitely do better as far as the running back position, we could definitely still do better, you know? And that would be like, I mean, that would be like trading for a Damian Pierce or trading for a Miles Sanders. Running backs that are more than capable, solid running backs too, that you put them behind a really good offensive line, which I think that we will, then I think that they can be very valuable assets to the team. But other than that, I think we're fine. I think we have a top 5 quarterback, a top 5 wide receiver, you know. We have a top 5, a top 5 defense, like potentially a top 5 defense. I think we could potentially have a top 10, top 5 offensive line this year. I already think that I'm already calling it that Jake Ferguson's going to be a top 5 tight end this year. So that already doesn't need to, really be, doesn't need to be explained. We have a top 5 corner, top 5. Man, forget top 5. That dude is the top edge rusher, pass rusher in the NFL in Micah Parsons. So, yeah, I mean, and then you got potentially a top 5 corner on the other side in Deron Bland, So I think that everywhere else other than like running back and interior defensive line, we're good. I think that we have a very reliable and dependable linebacking group right now. We are in a far better situation as far as linebacker compared to last year. And yeah, safety, which, by the way, speaking of safety, I'm going to make a video about this tomorrow. Speaking of safety, because there's a safety, a 4-time Pro Bowl safety that's still out there in free agency that the Dallas Cowboys could right the wrong of all this, fiasco that's going on, this off season. They could right the wrong of all of that as long as they could make this move happen. So, but I will get to him. I will make a video about that tomorrow, about that player. But yeah, so safety room, I think it's fine. Could always use improvement. Hint, hint. But I think it's all right. I think it's pretty good. And then yeah, running back, and interior defensive line is the only thing I'm asking for as far as, like we could definitely make improvements to that. As long as we can make improvements to the running back, position, I'm cool. But speaking of the interior defensive line, there is another player that I wanted to discuss. Who I want to discuss about is Mazi Smith, because we haven't made a video about Mazi Smith yet, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously I mentioned Justin Rogers, who we drafted. Right now, as we speak, he would be a starter because of how thin we are at defensive tackle. So, and then I think we still have Carl Davis, but I mean, are you really gonna try to put your eggs in all your eggs in one basket, trying to depend on him? And still a question mark as far as Mazi Smith being a, obviously a first round pick that you used for last year, And I already kind of made a video kind of related to Mazi Smith before about how I don't think he's a bust yet, because I still feel like we didn't have him on the field very much last year. I know that his main objective that we had for him coming in was to be more of a run stopper, a guy that we put in run situations, but I'm sorry, you gotta figure out how to get this dude on the field way more than you are, because he's got to be able to have a bit of a, if not being a pass rusher, you got to at least have him out there as far as being able to get a little bit of penetration, get a little bit of penetration inside to where quarterbacks aren't able to step up, because you have a big old guy like Mazi who can, just feel that void and be a disruption on the inside. So Mazi, of course, we know that coming out of Michigan, he was a great run stopper who was big for Michigan as far as their run defense. You didn't want to run the ball against him, especially not in between the tackles, because Mazi Smith was a big problem, no pun intended. And, when you look at Mazi Smith's film, it ain't bad. It ain't bad. Like it really isn't. His it ain't that bad when you think about it. So, like, when you watch the film, he does have a little bit of disruption as far as the running game. He does tend to force those ball carriers to go the other way sometimes because of that push that he has. But Mazi definitely needs to, improve as far as using his hands, because I felt like there were a lot of times where he was only relying upon his strength only, his strength only in size, that it kind of, handicapped him in a certain way, because he was only trying to just move guys out of the way. And I think he needs to learn how to use his hands a little bit better, get a better punch in the chest of those offensive linemen, and also have a much more faster get off. That's another thing that he struggles with, as far as he doesn't get off the line. He doesn't explode off the line, off the snap of the ball the way you want him to. He does tend to get a little, he does tend to, just be a little, like slow in those type of areas. And when you do that, you put your offensive lineman that is in front of you in a huge advantage, because he has the, step on you to be able to get up and get his hands on you, because you're not, getting off the line, as quick as you should be able to. So Mike Zimmer, can hopefully be able to take care of that, because definitely need him to improve. Again, he was solid last year for the playing time, the lack of playing time he was getting. I felt like he was, playing well. He just could obviously do way better, for what his job is, being able to get that punch on the offensive lineman, being able to hold up and, make a major disruption, in between the tackles. Just got to do, a whole lot better. Up next, who I wanted to talk about was Kavontae Turpin, because, obviously, the biggest problem that we had in 2022 was, as far as Kavontae Turpin, we just felt like he wasn't getting used the proper way that he should have been being used for. Kellen Moore just couldn't really figure out how to use him. And then Mike McCarthy, of course, last season becomes the new, play caller. And, for the most part, I think he definitely tried. He tried it. That's for sure. I mean, when you watch Kavontae Turpin last year, yes, he got a lot of end arounds, reverses. He even caught a couple touchdown pass. He even, scored a few, touchdowns, some even on the ground. But, when you watch, as you see, of course, that play there, where Kavontae Turpin can really make an impact, I do believe that Kavontae Turpin can really become a impact in the passing game for us. Last year, he caught, I believe it was 3 touchdown passes last year. He caught one against the 49ers. He caught one against the Eagles. And then he also caught one against the Commanders. So he caught a few touchdown passes last season, and of course, what he brings to the table as far as the return game, is another way that he can, have an impact. But, I just, feel like, Kavontae could definitely be used even more in the receiving game, more than he has, because he is a dynamic player that can be used, for big plays, explosive plays, be a major, big threat to our offense, and his speed, obviously, he can probably be able to take the top off the defense and, do all sorts of things. I'm not talking about just having him be in the backfield, and I'm not talking about him just being, a guy who catches just end arounds. But I'm also not even talking about him just being a receiver. I think you can give him more plays like the one against the Giants, where, he was even, having some plays where he was, in the backfield getting toss sweeps and scoring touchdowns. That's a ability that I think that Kavontae Turpin can definitely be an impact, for us, and that is for sure. So to conclude, I would say that yes, I do believe that, the Dallas Cowboys are right there as far as the question, do they have enough heading into this 2024 season? I would like to see them make a better effort as far as the running back position, and even try to see if they can still find something as far as D tackle. Because right now we're looking for a hope and a prayer, as far as the defensive tackle position. So we just got to see how it all works out. But I just, feel like there's still a couple parts of our team that I think we're still missing, as far as if I believe we're truly ready. I mean, granted, I guess don't really have a choice. You kind of have to go into the season, kind of feeling like, we don't have a choice, that yes, we do have enough, because, Jerry and Steven are probably not going to do much to resolve the situation. But we know that they still do make a little bit of last minute moves, to try to move the needle a little bit. So I don't think it's truly over yet. So, but that's really just how I feel about that, as far as, like, if we're fully equipped and ready for this 2024 season to really make a championship run. It's going to be all on the hands of guys like Dak, CD, Micah, even Trayvon. It's going to be on the, hands of, these guys, as far as, if that's going to happen. And most importantly, that offensive line is definitely going to be something that is something to focus on and look at, as far as what's going to really power us towards a championship. So, and then Mazi Smith, I feel like he didn't have a bad rookie season. I thought he was solid. He just didn't play enough. I think that you're going to get the absolute most Mike Zimmer is going to attempt to bring out the absolute most out of Mazi Smith on, of course, this 1 year, proven deal that Mike Zimmer is on right now. There's a lot of guys on 1 year proven deals at the moment as we speak. So, Mike Zimmer is going to try to, bring out the absolute most that he possibly can out of Mazi Smith. And Kavontae Turpin needs to continue to get his snaps, he needs to get his snaps even more and more, maxed out. He hardly was used in 2022. Last year, we were starting to scratch the surface as far as, utilizing him. But, I feel like we can maximize his snaps and continue to, have his snaps be even more and more and more, because that is definitely a game changer that, definitely should not be like a trophy that is sitting on the entertainment center just collecting dust. No, you gotta go get a, duster or something and go polish that trophy. And that's what Kavontae Turpin is. You gotta continue to polish the dude up a little bit. Polish the dude up more and more and more. I don't think he's a Swiss Army knife. No, I believe he is a guy who can be a major contributor on our offense. Almost like a Deebo Samuel, but obviously at a lesser extent. Like he can be a wide receiver / running back, for our offense. But, let me know y'all's thoughts and opinions. Do y'all think that we have enough? How do you feel about Mazi Smith, and how do you feel about Kavontae Turpin getting even more snaps going into this 2024 season? So, that has been Late Night Talk episode 23, and of course leave a like, and subscribe. And this is Mr. Cowboys Fan, and we are out.